You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast.
A common problem in South Africa is people can't pay street traders, informal workers easily unless they have cash or unless the merchant has a card device, which is very rare. The goal should never be product perspective. It should be customer perspective. I think a lot of products in the market are product driven, not customer driven. People have created a SnapScan account and never come back to pay these guys. And there's a reason why there's all that compliance and we've got a bank behind us that monitors us. If that becomes accessible, it will be quite an interesting shift if people stop paying with cards and paying with another solution.
Stay tuned as we bring you inspiring people who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. You're listening to the Unlocking Africa podcast with your host, Tessa Adamu.
Welcome to another episode of the Unlocking Africa podcast, where we explore the innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders who are unlocking Africa's economic potential. Today, we're speaking with Kosta Scholiadis, founder and CEO of Street Wallet, one of South Africa's most exciting fintech startups. Kosta and his team are transforming how South Africa's 1 million street vendors and informal traders access the digital economy. Street Wallet has developed a low-cost, accessible payment solution that allows informal workers to accept cashless payments, even if they don't have a bank account or smartphone. Kosta, welcome to the Unlocking Africa podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Tessa.
It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. So, Kosta, give us a bit of an insight into who Kosta Scholiadis is.
Who am I? I am a founder and entrepreneur. This isn't my first business that I've launched. I've built tech platforms in the past. I used to operate a sports tech platform in South Africa for young footballers. I used to work in football, actually, and as a football coach.
Oh, wow.
And in that journey, I got some exciting leadership skills. I got some knowledge into how a young person with limited data and digital connectivity thinks about tech. And COVID then led me into seeing the opportunity of Street Wallet. A common problem in South Africa is people can't pay street traders, car guards, informal workers easily unless they have cash or unless the merchant has a card device, which is very rare. And it got me down the journey of solving this problem, figuring out a way to make it work well for the payers and the receivers. And there was a lot of transferable knowledge from the sports tech platform that I had built. And it got us to the point where COVID exacerbated the cashless economy. And we then built this thing. And it's live, it's operating, we're funded, and it's an exciting time.
So you touched on what inspired you to start the company, but was it a specific incident or activity that was a catalyst to driving you to founding the company?
I was, this idea was an idea from a while before. It was a problem that every South African has thought about. And I'm not the first to think of the idea. How do you pay a street trader without cash? The most common phrase is, sorry, I don't have cash. And it's a pity because there are great products in the market, but for one or other reason, there's just one too many hurdles for them to access it at scale, those products, whether it's card devices that cost $40 a device, or whether it's connectivity, whether it's needing to have bank accounts and email addresses. All these hurdles have prevented it. So what had triggered it over the line was my then partner, personal partner. She wanted to do something with me. At the time, I didn't think it was the greatest idea to start a venture with her, but I was entertaining the idea, the solution. And at dinner one evening, there was someone playing the drums. This guy who had a drum and playing a djembe. And something said, if he shows up with a SnapScan QR code, we'll start it. Which is counterintuitive because it means he had a solution. But we just knew that SnapScan didn't solve all the problems at scale. And he did have SnapScan. And then it was a thing of, okay, we can do this better. Let's go for it. And started it together and grew it. And that was the inception of the whole concept, and just dived in head first.
So you detailed the catalyst and I guess the problem you're trying to solve. You also mentioned that this isn't a new issue that you're trying to solve. We know that informal workers Africa-wide are largely excluded from the digital economy. So how is Street Wallet specifically trying to address this gap?
How we've done this is we're approaching it from a different perspective to how I think many fintechs in Africa are solving the problem. Most fintechs are coming into the market saying, let's build an app and solve a walleting issue. Let's build an app that does this little niche different. But it's always about, let's get them on our system. Let's get them to use our product. A bit like how Instagram needs you to be on Instagram. And there's a lot of closed loops, meaning merchant and payer need to be on the same app. SnapScan needs both sides. Really great product. I use it in South Africa. Zapper does the same. They're partners of ours. But what we've seen more and more is that a German tourist coming in doesn't have those apps. And a local might not have a mobile device or mobile SnapScan locally and integrated. There's an e-wallet solution, vouchering system. If you're a foreigner, you can't access the local bank's voucher systems. And the card devices are very expensive on the other side. The merchant has to spend a lot of money to get access, and he needs a bank account. And one last hurdle is that SnapScan, Zapper all have market share. There's a few of these players. So a merchant has to decide, do I get one of them or do I get all three? And it's a lot of hurdles, right? So what we've done is we said, let's create a marketplace. We create one QR code that takes you to a web page. It takes you to Terce's page, shows you his face, name, phone number, and has an option to pay with Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, SnapScan, Zapper, Scan to Pay. We're integrating bank EFTs direct and slowly adding more products. And so we don't do the processing. We create a marketplace so that no one can say, I don't have the ability to pay you. And what we then do is receive the funds and convert them into Standard Bank instant money vouchers, which are redeemable from 8 nationwide retailers. Spar Checkers, Pick and Pay. In the UK, it's Tesco, Waitrose equivalents. You're going to a store, you're getting your cash out. And so we took 2 really good products for each side, which is digital payments through a mobile device and paying out in cash vouchers. And we do the conversion. And it's removed the need for data. It's removed the need for bank accounts, for email addresses, and it's super light for the merchant and for the payer who doesn't need another app.
So you've explained how it actually works, from a vendor's QR code to receiving payments without a bank account. One thing which I do find quite interesting is that Street Wallet uses low-tech innovation. You've got a simple QR code and the SMS confirmation. So how did you strike the balance between that innovation but also the accessibility element to it?
So for me, being a product tech person, the goal should never be product perspective. It should be customer perspective. And I think a lot of products in the market are product driven, not customer driven. When you put yourself in the shoes of a customer, the merchant, you have to ask yourself, which hurdles do they have to jump to get your product? And our goal was strip as many of those hurdles. So how can we lighten the KYC? How can we ensure that there is no app for either side? How can we get rid of data? And that was the thinking. Remove as much as possible. So a payer from Germany can pay with Apple Pay. A local who downloads SnapScan can use that. Someone in Durban who uses Zapper can use Zapper. So you give all the options that already have market share and you bring those partners on the journey with you. And they're all making transaction revenue through us. And by doing voucher payouts via SMS and confirmation SMSs, you don't need the merchant to have a smartphone even. He can use a Nokia 3310 and he'll still get his money out. And lightening that load allows everyone to try you out because there's no big hurdles. There's no needing to download another app. So people give you a chance. And when you do that and you get them the money the next morning, they love you and they use you. And that's what we've experienced.
Fantastic. We've touched on the innovation and the technology. So if we can kind of look at how the company has grown over the years, I know you've recently recruited, where I read you recently recruited, is it John Rogers, who is a veteran with over 25 years of major financial institutions. What role has the team played in terms of helping grow and scale the business so far?
Sure, I can't explain to you as a founder who went through the whole roller coaster. I had a partner at the start. We were both part-time. And when I bought her out, I then realized I'm spent a lot of money. I'm on my own with full responsibility. I'm outsourcing from my salary, my developers. And I knew the business backwards, but I couldn't grow. Yeah. And it's very difficult to get into a meeting with a serious client and not have a team behind you to back you up. Fortunately, I met my amazing partner, Stephen Brito, who I brought into the team. He's our CFO/COO. So he's helping with strategy. He's exited a company before at a big scale, 80 million pounds. Mm-hmm. And his experience in seeing how the company needs to be structured has allowed us to start building for that. And we then got the funding when we put our plan together. We raised $350,000 earlier this year. And John came in because we needed to make our tech scalable. We got quite lucky there. It was someone in our network, but John has worked at Chase at, I think, JP Morgan. He's incredible, building tech on the big scale on the international stage. So we got quite lucky there, and we've got a really cool agreement. But the goal when you do that is, the hardest thing for me at least was letting go as a founder. You have to pass on responsibility, trust the others to take over the operations, and essentially build a machine that can stand alone. And we've got some really cool people in the team now that are making that happen.
Fantastic. So going back to a point you made about your successful funding round, what has this capital allowed you to do, in terms of scaling or growing in the short and medium term?
We've been able to hire our developers full-time. Stephen and I got to go full-time after raising the funds. And we've brought some marketing in that was not possible before. So we're able to do a lot more brand partnerships. We're able to do brand awareness just digitally and on the ground that you couldn't do before. And that in itself creates more traction and brings in business. We also have some commission-based sales representatives that are helping us grow. But just alone being full-time and being able to support everyone has allowed that to grow as well. And consistently, we're adding businesses. We've done a partnership with Plush. We've been able to build activation programs with them and train their staff. And that's been the biggest positive in resourcing, is being able to tend to all these partners that we're working with.
Yeah, you just touched on the partnership with Plush. I guess partnership seems to be a key part of your growth strategy. What has this collaboration with Plush Car taught you about expanding into new informal sectors?
Interesting. So Plush Car Wash is a use case in the business sector. You've got the street market where we go direct B2C and we onboard a street trader directly. And then you've got businesses that have service providers within their ecosystem, which allows us to get access to them by only talking to one party. So we are working with Plush Car Wash, rolling out 30 sites with 300 car washes. And we only have to work with Plush in this case. They're all over South Africa. And we co-brand our QR codes. We do activations with them. But what it does is it allows us to do the processing for their washes directly. The problem with a lot of businesses we've seen is they don't want to handle cash that actually doesn't belong to them. So we do the waterless washes for them. And you've got a lot of staff that comes on site and pays daily rent to be allowed to wash cars. This way, Plush knows how much money they're getting from rent, but the money needs to end up in the pockets for the sale of the service provider. So we're able to come in partnership with Plush, provide QR codes. When a customer pays, the money settles directly to the washer and not to Plush. And that's a really big, important positioning that we have that differentiates us. Other players in the markets have to settle the funds to Plush. And then Plush has the headache of the financial admin. So we're able to partner with a lot of cool businesses that are in the cash economy, digitize them, and get the money direct to their service providers that are working under them.
Fantastic. And as part of your growth strategy, I've seen that you announced the acquisition of Digitip, which is a platform that helps informal workers to receive digital tips. So how does this acquisition fit into your broader strategy?
Digitip was a direct competitor.
Okay.
They were based in Durban. We had launched in Cape Town, and they were doing a really cool project there. They had a different bank partnership. They had a different flow of funds, but essentially really good traction, 60 parking lots and growing. And their founder came to us and wanted to work with us. And then we did that. We acquired them. We put it under our umbrella. We got an agreement in place that worked for both. And now we've got a position in Durban as well. But it's also given us access to a new banking partner. It's given us access to new products and new database.
As you mentioned, Digitip was a competitor. So have you seen growth in terms of your user base, and how has Digitip's technology enhanced what you're offering as Street Wallet?
We're actually in the process of incorporating their voucher system, which has a different cost structure. So it's more in-house. Also having access to their banking partner allows us to leverage their tools. But ultimately, our main purpose was to get a position in Durban and have their database. That was the main goal of acquiring them. But in doing this partnership, we've also got an arrangement with their founder to grow into the Durban market further, rewarding her further. And that allows us to kind of get a faster market share.
I know we've talked about growth and scaling. With increased growth comes increased impact. So if we can talk about the impact, what changes are you actually seeing on the ground among street vendors who are using or utilizing Street Wallet?
The number one change is they're earning more. So what tends to happen in South Africa is when you have cash in your car and you want to give a tip to someone, you end up giving 10 Rand cash note, maybe 20. We're seeing an average tip of 38 Rand a tip. That's just about $2. And that's incredible to see that tips are higher. We're also seeing that cash flow is important in this market. So what we've noticed with a lot of guys who are selling products is that they're selling products on the beach in peak season. And when they get rid of their stock, they the next morning have to go buy more stock before they go off at 9 a.m. and go start selling again. And if you've got a card device, what tends to happen is there's a 2-day delay on card to into your bank account.
Yeah.
So there's a problem in delay and lag, and we're fronting that. So when we receive an Apple Pay payment of $50, let's as an example for product, we might only see that money in 4 days. By the time, it might be a Friday or Saturday. By the time we see it, it's 4 days. So we manage that. But the next morning, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, or Tuesday, that merchant's getting his cash voucher. So we're fronting that, and it allows them to go buy their stock. So we're the closest thing that's digital to cash. The closest thing in that you're able to receive a card payment, but get cash as soon as possible.
I think from the conversation, it's quite clear that you're making impact with these vendors, informal workers. So from the journey so far, are there any success stories that you're proud of that kind of demonstrate how Street Wallet is improving the livelihood of vendors or increasing their revenue streams?
Yes, I've got two really cool ones. So I built a lot of relationships in the Clifton Beach area at the beginning. I was doing a lot of the onboarding myself. And got a really cool story here. The first ever person that used our proper product that we got to market after our initial MVP where we were figuring things out, we then went to market with our product. The first ever sign up was a beach seller called Andre. He's a Congolese guy, small fact about me, I was born in Kinshasa, Congo.
Okay, interesting.
And so we connected about that and we chatted, and he was the first sign up, and I had to convince him to trust me because this is a new product. And the whole beach started using it, but he was my first person. We then later started doing events at some charity organizations, and I needed hands. And he became a speaker. He told me, no, I do speaking at my local community. And I actually was employing him. And to think that my first ever vendor was someone I actually employed is just a really cool story. And then there's been other vendors that are just making incredible money. One of the coolest things that we did was we stopped only signing up users face-to-face, and we created a self-sign-up online. And you'll get guys across the country signing up, and within a couple of days, they're earning a few thousand rand. That's really cool to see that people are really earning by enabling them.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I think so far we've talked about commercial interactions, activities, but you've also worked closely with NGOs and charities, local partners. How important would you say these partnerships are in terms of driving adoption and also the financial inclusion element of what you're trying to achieve?
I think there's never enough partnerships you can do that will give awareness. As a limited resource company, we do have to think which ones are going to give us most value as quickly as possible. So there's a balancing act. So I try to partner with everyone. I try to say yes to everything because I want to help everyone. Fortunately, I've got a partner who says, what's the reach? And let's make sure that it's the highest value ones first. And we just try to strike a balance to try and help everyone. So that being said, some NGOs have been fruitful, some not so much, just because of the nature of the partnerships. But I think our main goal at this moment is to focus on businesses like Plush. We've got a few others lined up that we would announce in a short while. That Plush partnership has led to more car washes coming on board. And we've got a few other industries we're targeting in retail and agriculture. So they all help in building the trust and the exposure. It's about just striking a balance of where you're going to target first and second.
You highlighted the importance of awareness and building trust. I guess in line with this, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in bringing a fintech solution to the informal economy?
The merchant has to know he's going to get his money tomorrow, especially if he hasn't heard of you. There have been scams out there in the market that people have created a SnapScan account, gone out, given people SnapScan QR codes and never come back to pay these guys. And there's a reason why there's all that compliance, and we've got a bank behind us that monitors us. It's for that exact reason. We're building our brand as we work with partners, but we're also doing direct brand awareness. And if you don't have that, you will struggle to convince people. Our biggest strength in trust is word of mouth, though. If I've used the product and I say it works, and I tell my friend, he will use it too. So we're trying to use some referral strategies. We're trying to use some business partnerships. There's a few avenues we're growing in.
Interesting. So keeping on the theme of challenges, we know that regulation and compliance in fintech can be complex, especially when working with informal, unbanked communities. How have you managed to navigate this space specifically in South Africa?
Interestingly, when I founded this, I didn't know all these compliance headaches. And I knew there probably would be, but I actually went and created a SnapScan and a Zapper QR code as a hiring business because we were trying to get people employed while using a product. SnapScan slapped us on the wrist and said, you can't do what you're doing. That's aggregation on aggregation, which essentially means you've got someone facilitating a payment who's then giving it to someone who's facilitating a payment. The only way we could get through that was by registering as a third-party payment provider with a bank. We were lucky enough that ENS Africa, the law firm, was willing to pro bono help us because we were helping this market. They were actually partnered with Standard Bank, and they referred us to their team, and we got in at Standard Bank. And we needed to register as a third-party payment provider. We needed to work towards certain compliance of KYC on our users. So it's not an easy market to get into. But once you do, it's great. You're able to do what you need to do. I haven't pushed it towards a banking licensed wallet because that has even more hurdles. It makes it even harder to sign someone up. That's why we're not a wallet in the sense of a Revolut or a bank account. So we're a payments business that converts digital payments into cash voucher wallets, and that makes it much lighter.
As you mentioned, when you started, you weren't aware of all of these regulations. So keeping on the theme in terms of the challenges, as a founder, what would you say has been the biggest learning curve in terms of building a fintech that serves those at the base of the pyramid?
The hardest part in this space is last mile distribution.
Yes.
It's being able to get access to this. If it was easy, every big bank would have captured this group of people. And every big bank is hoping probably that we get it right, and then they come tap us on the shoulder and say, can we get access? That's the truth. And the tech is actually relatively easy. There's a lot of smart people that can help you build cool tech. But it's never that. You can build the best tech and it's not going to get used. It's about understanding that person on the ground and their needs, and then being able to deliver a way that gets you scale. The initial strategy was hire 40 agents and go to every corner of South Africa and just get people. But when you talk to investors, they don't want to hear that you're hiring a team of 40 going around and signing people up. They want to see scalable approach. And it's right. You need to strike a balance. So you work with partners that can give you access to 1,000 people. And that's been a learning curve I've experienced, having come from, a self-starter environment. And it's been a good learning curve, I would say.
For me, it's always refreshing to hear founders speak so openly about their journey, because those lessons often resonate with our listeners who are building in Africa. I know before you've talked about the work that you're doing in South Africa and also the potential of scaling beyond. If we look at beyond South Africa, what markets across Africa are you potentially eyeing next? What opportunities do you see there?
So in our research, there's definitely opportunity across emerging markets in Africa, in South America, in Southeast Asia, just to name a few. Standard banks in 17 of the African countries. So we've got an opportunity to move. But before we do that, we are tackling South Africa. There are opportunities to pivot in several directions. We can either take the exact model of the payment solution we've created and replicate it in every other country. We can also go into remittance, so money into South Africa or money out of South Africa. There's really cool integrations you can do with cryptocurrencies and blockchain in general to do affordable remittance. And the other option is to go into creating a wallet that is a bank account within South Africa. But if you look at going into another country, what you're not going to do is go into Kenya and try to compete with M-Pesa. What you will maybe do is go into all the tourist markets in Kenya and create a QR code so that a tourist can pay using Apple Pay, and we convert it to M-Pesa wallet. So we would partner with M-Pesa equivalent, right? And our goal is not to go into markets and compete with people. It's to try and create an interoperable experience. What I mean by interoperable means you can pay with Apple Pay and get it in M-Pesa wallet. You can pay with M-Pesa in South Africa and get it in a bank account. There should be no closed loops. There should be a marketplace of payments that allows the market share to move money between the two. And we're the middleman. So that allows more transactions to happen. And fewer people have to say, I don't have this way of paying, sorry. That's how we want to grow across markets.
Fantastic. So you detailed the potential new markets and also some of the ways to access those markets and the trends that you're seeing. So with that in mind, are there any trends that you're seeing in this space in terms of low-cost, accessible payment solutions that you're quite excited about?
Yes, I think in South Africa, BankServe has built a solution called PayShop, which has made EFTs cheaper. By using a phone number or an email address, you can send money to someone, something that's very commonplace in the European market. And it's made the cost cheaper, which allows us to drop the cost to our merchants, because some merchants do want their money in their bank account, not in vouchers. We've got the wallet products, which are the e-wallets and voucher systems that are in South Africa that we have integrated. I love the product. On its own, it's got its limitations, but through us, it allows us to get money to people easily. And I do think watching the space of blockchain in this world to reduce costs is an interesting one. We're not running into trying to build the best tech yet, because I think that's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is the user experience and just getting access to certain markets. So we're trying to get that perfected and then look to make it more efficient. But it'll be interesting to see how blockchain can come into this space and cheapen our transaction values.
So if we move from the current trends and look at the future, how do you see the future of cashless payments evolving in Africa's informal economy, say over the next 5 to 10 years?
That's quite interesting. And I'm not sure I'm the most equipped to answer that question. I haven't worked in corporate banking, let's just say, in this world. So my visibility into how all the markets are moving at this minute is probably limited to some degree, and I'm quite honest about that. But one thing I'm certain of that is going to come into the market is this blockchain payments. And moving money across borders is going to be one big shift. And if the banks take long to build these solutions, you're going to have fintechs that fill that gap. Locally as well, there's a lot of players that are doing processing of payments through blockchain. This week alone, someone was telling me that there's a bit of interest in people paying with Bitcoin. Now, I've never seen that happen because it's usually, people store the value in Bitcoin. Not everyone has access to Bitcoin. But if that becomes accessible, it'll be quite an interesting shift if people stop paying with cards and paying with another solution, like cryptocurrencies. So that's what I think will happen. Whether it fulfills based on accessibility to market will be another question.
Thank you for that. Finally, Kosta, if we look closer to home, what's your broader vision for Street Wallets? How do you see it contributing to unlocking that economic potential on the continent in the next 5 to 10 years?
Our goal is to be the most personable fintech in the market. On our QR codes, you can pay with your payment option, but just below for the street traders, we have a hire me section where you can hire them. You show who they are, short story, their skill set, the phone number, and that's what's really cool. And something that I personally have learned in psychology, there's an ARC triangle: affinity, reality, and communication. You can connect and get to like someone, like me and you, Teresa. If we share something in common and we talk about it, we might talk about our favorite football teams, and all of a sudden we're best friends. And what's happening in a lot of these markets, in particular South Africa, is there's quite a dichotomized economy of those who have and those who don't have. And the way you bridge that is through communication and connecting. And we want to make that personable. We want to have connection with our merchants. We're not just a banking tool that you got to log into and good luck. We want to be connected to our merchants. We want to help them. We really want to solve the problem. Street wallet in the name. We're there for the street trader. And so I'm genuinely passionate about helping these guys and making them feel seen. There's a wonderful word in the Zulu language, which is sawubona, which is a greeting that actually says, I see you. And it's a beautiful way of greeting someone because you actually want people to be seen. They're not just this guy on the street. And so I would love for our product to be something that people look at it and have a positive feeling towards it, rather than just a tech money solution.
Quote of the week.
As people, we often have quotes, mantras, African proverbs, or affirmations that keep us going when times are challenging or when times are good. Do you have one that you can share with us today?
Actually, the one that just stuck always, if I can use one that I know off the top of my head, gone on a bit of a spiritual journey, is Mark 11:24. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, pray as though you've received it and it shall be yours. And it's a really beautiful one because it links to the manifesting. You've got to be the thing you want to get to, right? So I apply that to my life, and you have to have the belief that you will get there and assume that role before you get there, and have trust and faith that you will get there. And I think I've applied that, and every time I've applied it with genuine honesty in it, things have just happened. A new client has come, funding came when I was in that state. So I really do believe in the frame of mind getting you where you want to go.
Amen. And that is a perfect way to close today's conversation. Kosta, thank you for sharing your journey with Street Wallets. It's clear that it's a powerful example of how technology can be used not just to modernize payments, but also to transform lives and uplift communities. So fantastic. Absolute pleasure having you on the podcast today. And yeah, I really enjoyed our conversation.
Kosta, thank you. You asked some really cool questions, and I'm glad to have connected with you.
Fantastic. And I guess until next time, keep innovating, keep building, and keep unlocking Africa's potential.
We'll do our best. Thanks, and talk to you soon.
Thank you to everyone who has listened and stayed tuned to the podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, or tell a friend about it. You can also rate, review us in Apple Podcast or wherever you download your podcast. Thank you, and see you next week for the Unlocking Africa podcast.